So, hey guys, welcome to the newest episode of the SaaS Sessions podcast. I have an amazing guest with me. Today I have Eli Schwartz. He's a growth advisor. And previous to being a growth advisor, he has helped companies like Mixpanel, Shutterstock, Quora, Handshake, GetAround, and SurveyMonkey with their SEO. And before being into a complete or full-time growth advisor, he was a VP at SurveyMonkey, where he led the SEO efforts and also set up their business in APAC. Is that right, Eli?
Not VP,
Uh-huh.
but director. But I'll take the
Oh,
VP.
okay.
Post
Yeah.
leaving promotion. I'll take it.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, welcome to the show, Eli, and I am glad to have you here. And I kind of gave like a short introduction of yourself, but do you want to talk, like, give people more about you?
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Mhm.
So like you said, I'm a growth advisor. I work with companies on helping to strategize their organic growth strategies. And what that
Right,
typically means is there's a lot of SEO out in the world, and mostly what I focus on is SEO and organic growth within Google as the largest search engine in the world. Although there are some other search engines that would like to eat into that market share, and I have worked on those, but those are country specific. But there's a lot of SEO in the world, and many companies have an SEO person. And
right,
typically what I find in the conversations I've had over many years is that there's a missing link, and that missing link is the strategy and how
right.
that strategy ladders up from the tactics that the SEO team is working on all the way down or all the way up to the dollars converted by customers in the company.
Right.
So that's typically where I help the clients I work with. I help them understand what that strategy should be, how to measure that strategy, and then from there to figure out the tactics. That talk more about that strategic view in product led SEO, but that's the high level. Like I love working on these challenges because when you hit that perfect recipe, you already have a great SEO tactical team, you already have a great CMO that understands everything, you already have funding, you already have product market fit, and all you're missing is like a way to make this work. It's like magical.
So that's great, Eli. I mean, like, so SEO as a topic and SEO as a channel and as a function, right? It's very close to my heart because I started my career into marketing and growth with SEO, and I started doing it in 2011, which was like, the birth of like the new age SEO, where like, Google launched all these new algorithms and started taking, like, a few years down the line, they started building on the rich content, rich data, and they started taking the structured data very seriously, right? So SEO is definitely one function where I started my career into marketing, and I didn't continue like only into SEO. Like, I did grow into different things. I dabble along like different channels, but you fairly, I saw that your career, you're fairly dabbled on only on SEO, right? Mostly, like, you have been into SEO since 2008, right?
Actually, a little earlier, probably 2004 was the first time I tried optimizing anything for search.
Yeah.
And I even got into it because I built my own website. And
Uh-huh.
this was back in the day when you saw all your queries, and I didn't even know about Google Analytics. And I was used to log into my log files, and I'd see the queries people type. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. Like, I can make people come to my website if I do things.
That's amazing. I mean, you discover something which is really close to you when you build something on your own. So I started like, looking onto SEO more when I started my website, my blog in 2011, and
Yeah.
like, and then you're fairly followed only the SEO journey. So, like, is there a reason, like, you just stick to SEO that you loved so about it so much? Because I knew that you also touched on like different functions which is not SEO, but you didn't, like, you just you kind of grown into just this one vertical. So is that like plan, or is it just kind of happened in the flow?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it's the reason I landed in the consulting I'm doing right now, which
Yeah.
is from my experience. I've seen that SEO teams and SEO practitioners are typically not well treated. They're treated like junior marketers, and this is the reason why most people in this industry end up leaving the industry and doing something else. Like, they're in a company, they start an SEO, and then they get promoted and they don't do SEO anymore, or they're working for an agency and their lives are pretty hard and they're working very hard, and then they leave the agency and go do something else. And I was
Right.
fortunate that I did not have that experience. I was, credit to the companies I worked for, well compensated for the work I did, had a lot of responsibility, was able to build up the teams. There was a time where I'd left SEO a little bit when, mentioned earlier that I was in Asia, I was in Singapore leading marketing for all of APAC for SurveyMonkey. Wasn't as focused on SEO then, still had it as a part of my responsibility. And what I was able to see from that experience, because I tried to leave SEO, I was still getting all these fascinating companies coming to me, asking me questions around SEO. And I,
Right.
did some amazing consulting. And I realized that there was this huge gap in people that had the right experience, had the years of experience, really understood the landscape of search. And there weren't that many folks that could do it because everyone had left it for the reasons I just said. Like it wasn't a great career to be in. So the longer I stayed in there, I realized how much more valuable I could be. And that's the road I've really stayed on. So as much as like there have been times where I wanted to do other things, and it seems like, I can't keep doing the same thing in my career I've been doing forever. But the more I like really drill in and focus on this one area of expertise, the more valuable it is because other people are not. And I can add a lot of value to the companies I work with. And, it's fascinating to me. Many of the times I start working in consulting relationship with a company, it's because they've tried to hire a quote unquote director or VP or senior VP of SEO, and they can't find it. And I did this analysis on my blog on how many people there are with certain level of expertise. And I think I only did it for the US. What I found was this massive mismatch between roles, specifically in the Bay Area, and I forget the number, but there was at least 3-to-1 open roles for people with SEO experience versus people that actually had the SEO experience. So everyone wants someone with 10 years of experience, but there are not that many people that have 10 years of experience that are still working in SEO and are open to that job. So that's where a lot of times I do start talking to a company because they're interested in hiring someone with that experience and they can't. And then a consultant is the next best option.
Yeah, I wonder why companies might be doing this with people, or maybe people might be doing this with their jobs when they start with SEO. Because I think as a first step for the companies also, it's good. Like when a company is just starting out, SEO as a channel is like a really easy channel and the best channel, like, where they can start. If you're doing inbound marketing and you're doing SEO with the inbound marketing, I think that's one channel where every startup can put efforts on and easily monetize it from there, right? Because I don't think it takes as much efforts to build the SEO channel as it would take for a paid channel, or it would take for a referral channel or something like that, right? And while you said there is 3:1 ratio, I just wondering, like, why is there a gap that you see, like, in terms of how the companies seeing people, or like, who start with SEO, like become specialists in SEO, and then they start doing something else which is not focusing on just SEO? Or is it the people who want more challenges, or who are just tired of, like, just Google updating their algorithm every 3 months or something like that?
Right. I mean, you mentioned that company, it's an easy way to generate value. And I think that is another challenge that larger companies especially, are not aware of. It's because there are so many other channels there. They don't have the right attribution set up to know that it's contributing value. Yeah. So, I was very fortunate when I worked for SurveyMonkey. I started at SurveyMonkey when they had very little non-branded organic traffic. So when I joined, it was about 90% branded organic traffic, which is essentially people looking for SurveyMonkey. Internationally, they had the website translated to 16 languages, and there was almost no organic traffic coming in on any of these websites. And I was able to set up that foundation for SEO to actually move that percentage down from 90% branded to less than 40 and maybe even 30% of branded traffic. And by the time I left, organic was contributing 2/3 to the revenue. So SurveyMonkey's a public company. You can see what their revenue is, today, over a couple $100 million. 2/3 of that revenue is coming from organic traffic. So that is why I was able to both be well treated, and again, kudos to them for doing that, and be able to build my career, because it was very clear the value I was offering. Whereas in a larger company, typically you don't get to start from zero. They have existing SEO relationship. They have existing organic traffic. You're trying to bump that up, and then there's a lot of people fighting over whether that 10% increase in traffic was actually your efforts or not. In my case, I had hundreds of percents organic traffic, and there was a very clear delineation between Eli wasn't here and Eli, has been here for a couple of years. This seems to be driving value. So anybody that's, really looking to understand or invest in organic, the first thing you have to do is understand the contribution and the value it's creating.
That's amazing. And so yeah, we want to talk about more on product led SEO, but you just said one thing, and I have to ask this question, right? So you mentioned about when you started doing, like, started creating these translated pages, or you started translating the website for SurveyMonkey into different languages. So I think, did that give the SEO channel a boost? Because like people are searching in different languages, and if your site is available in that language, then you're ranking on top on those particular search engines or those language search engines. Because I think what, like, Facebook, when kind of one growth hack or one growth tactic that they applied was, to translate Facebook into different languages. I think that was like a very thrust, or that was like a push that Facebook got when they translated the whole Facebook website into like 8 to 10 languages initially. And that's when they saw, like, a lot of people suddenly joining Facebook from all parts of the world. So was it the same for SurveyMonkey as well? Like, did you see like increase, like a sudden increase in channel when you launched like different translated pages?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. With SurveyMonkey especially, like this is a solution that many people were looking for. And SurveyMonkey had such an authoritative website that just by opening up the translations for organic traffic, and again, they were, before I joined, they were pretty bad. Like the pages were translated, but they went through multiple redirects, and it was not driving any organic traffic. By putting in SEO best practices, probably the best term I was able to ever rank on internationally is the word mercado in Brazil. So for anybody that doesn't speak Portuguese, the word mercado is market, right? So we actually ranked on the word market, even though we did not have a market. We helped with market research, but because like we had so much authority, and
Yeah.
I guess no one else had enough authority on that word, we were able to rank on it. And like that's the kind of growth we saw, like as we opened up in languages, more developed languages. Like German was a little bit harder, but like in Portuguese, like it was incredible the kinds of terms we're able to rank very highly on. Again, it's not relevant. Like I don't think we deserve to rank on market, but as Google measured, from their perspective, what are authoritative websites that use these appropriate words that users might want to find, we ended up getting those rankings.
Yeah. So, I could think of an hour-long conversation with you on this particular topic, right? So about the using translations for SEO, and then tying up with your go-to-market strategies for that particular market, But let's that's like a conversation for another time. But let's talk on, like, this product-led SEO which you've been working on. So when, like, what is it, and like when did you first hear of the term, and or did you coin it?
I sort of coined the term product led SEO, but
Oh,
it's not a concept at all that I've created. It's really the idea of, instead of doing keyword research, and that is what drives your SEO process, it's looking at SEO as a product and then driving your SEO efforts around that product. And then so two parts of that. So one is the way you look at SEO as a product is, anybody that's ever been a product manager, and again, this is again unfortunate. At SurveyMonkey, there was a time I reported into the product team, and I was able to learn product best practices, not as a product manager, but I was on the product team.
right.
But when you're a product manager, you pull in all the different pieces. You pull in content, you pull in engineering and IT, you pull in design, you pull in other product people, and you're able to like really coordinate different functions in order to have an end result, which is the product. And by focusing on SEO like that, you can optimize all those pieces together, rather than the typical SEO team or SEO person is on the marketing team and they only have one lever to pull, which is SEO. But SEO in itself is not a lever. It is a lever that relies on those other levers. So it's just a viewpoint. Now, again, thinking of SEO as a product, rather than focusing on keywords and how to drive traffic, which the flaw with keywords is that anybody can focus on keywords. Like you're starting a new business in a business that is already in a product line vertical has already existed. You go to Ahrefs, SEMrush, Rank Ranger, you look for a keyword in your vertical, you pick that keyword, you have a content writer write it. Everyone's doing the exact same thing. Anyone with $100 per month has the same tool. They have the same keyword. You may or may not rank there. When you view it as a product, you do product processes, which is you talk to customers, you research data, you make, and you understand what it is that you need to build based on product market fit. And then even if you can't validate it with keyword research, when you build that, ideally, if there is product market fit, the users will come, the users will pick their own keywords. You're not targeting keywords, you're targeting usage, you're targeting intent. So
Right.
that's in a nutshell what it is.
Totally. So I don't recollect where I read this or what company followed this, but I do recollect listening to this on some podcast or webinar. So what they did, what their SEO team did was, so they sat down with the product team and the product marketing team, and they kind of checked what features or what benefits that the company or the product is giving. Those have some different keywords, and what the what the customers are using the keywords as, right? For example, people might call it SEO, but like, so in your customer might call it like some different keyword altogether. So they did a research with their existing customers on the existing features and what are your customers addressing the features to, and they saw like there is a keyword gap, like so your features have keywords which are very different, which is perceived by the product team and the product marketing team, and your customers are seeing your product features or as a different keyword set or key phrases altogether. And when they started writing on those keywords, where what your customer language, right? So they actually saw like really huge rise in their organic traffic, because now they're ranking for those keywords which your customer is talking. So like it's basically speaking your customer language. So I does it mean that is this a good example of product led SEO or what?
Yeah, essentially it means that you're putting the users and the product first in
Right.
building out your SEO strategy. So, again, in SEO's case, most of the product is actually content. So
Yeah.
rather than writing content based on a keyword, I'm writing content based on what need does it fill. So,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
then the most important part of product led SEO is that your ultimate KPI is conversions, dollar conversions, or whatever your currency might be, but
Mhm.
conversions and sales rather than rankings and traffic. So
Right.
for that sense, like I'm not doing keyword research and looking for the biggest keyword in my entire category that has 1 million monthly search visits. I'm looking for the keyword in my category that I will have a 50% conversion rate on. And if I don't have that keyword there, that's a gap that someone else can fill. So
Totally.
to
Yeah.
do that, like one of the, an easy tactic you might do there is to use a tool. I like using a couple tools that I like, but keywordtool.io is a good example of this,
Yeah.
where you find all your suggested queries. Look for your branded suggested queries. If you're not visible on those branded suggested queries, do that immediately. Like low hanging fruit, make sure like that people can find you. There's some other tools which help you also show suggested. Like another thing you can do is just type into Google, type your name into Google, see what happens. A tool like Answer the Public will give you, probably more ideas around suggested queries. But I think that's a really good place to start. Put your product in and see like what are the things that people are looking for around that. And again, product, I'm using the term product very widely. So if you're in the travel category, you put like the word vacation or holiday and see what comes after that.
Totally. And talking about brand keywords, right? So I know one good example where which a small company has beaten a big company in the brand keywords, which is HubSpot and Salesforce. So I'm not sure if you have read one article which was written by Substat, I guess, which how HubSpot is beating Google, SEO ranking on non-branded keywords in Salesforce, because they saw that top 10 keywords for Salesforce were mostly branded keywords, and for that, for
Right.
HubSpot was CRM and marketing automation, and which was like the keywords that people are searching the most, which are not the branded keywords. So I mean that's a really great strategy. And so SEO should definitely get a prime seat at the marketing table, right? Because as you said, not a lot of people would, for companies would have dedicated SEO people working for them. They'll be like digital marketing managers who have SEO as one function that they're overlooking alongside other functions. So to get to for SEO as a channel or a function to get the prime seat at the marketing table, so how should a business start putting focus on this particular channel, right? So what are some metrics that should assign or should attribute to SEO, like, because all other marketing channels are attributed to revenue, right? So how can an SEO team can attribute their efforts back to revenue? Like, how did you do it at SurveyMonkey? Maybe you have some tips there.
Yeah, it's a great question. Essentially, the challenge is getting the attribution to know
Yeah.
the conversion. So it really depends on the business. in an e-commerce business, it's actually a lot easier to do attribution because people show up on the website and then they click through and ideally they convert right then and there, and you know whether it came from direct or from SEO or from paid or referral, whatever it is. In a SaaS business, which it takes longer to sell and maybe there's multiple touch points, maybe you sign up for a free trial and later on you convert, or maybe you sign up for a webinar and then from there you get into an email list, and then from there you eventually get a demo from a salesperson, then follows up with you for 3 months. Much harder to attribute the organic traffic. However, it doesn't mean it's worthless. In that sense, it's very valuable to really understand what each channel of traffic contributes to that eventual conversion. So organic in a SaaS instance is likely going to be awareness and problem solving very high in the funnel. So say I have an issue with doing research and I need a research tool. So I start, and maybe actually I don't have a problem with research. I have a problem with the end result of research. Like I want to know why my users are dropping off the page. So I want to know why. So the question is like, why am I not converting? So I start with like how to troubleshoot converting. I find a blog post organically. I read about the blog post and it tells me something I could try. So I try that. I go back to that same blog because I start trusting it. Eventually I learn that blog is a part of a product that costs a lot of money. And then I might sign up for a webinar. So understanding that it's top of funnel, you can say how the conversion rate for these blog posts should be people signing up for a webinar, not people buying a product that takes 6 months to buy. So it's really an understanding of like what the contribution is of organic traffic. And then you can build that measurement system and what would happen if you didn't have the organic. Now, another thing I always like to mention is that organic and paid marketing are not two opposite sides of the coin, which too many people think they are. They think like, well, this is a keyword you paid for, and this is a keyword you didn't pay for, and ideally we should get all the keywords for free. I like to think of organic and paid as different steps in the funnel. So organic is much higher in the funnel. That you're going to optimize for keywords and topics that are just not worth paying for because they're too expensive or your quality score will be too low because not enough people search them. Paid is people lower in the funnel. They're closer to conversion. They're in a buying mentality. So what we want to do with organic is get the keywords that paid it's not worth paid buying. And with paid, we want to get the keywords that organic might not have ranked on, or keywords that are competitive, or keywords that are retargeted. You can target people that have already seen organic. So they're part and parcel of the same channel, and all of that is really passing a baton from organic onto paid, then onto sales, and so on and so on.
Totally. I think if you consider intent versus interest, right? So I think the SEO channel falls in the intent category, and I think intent has always the higher chances of converting as compared to interest channel. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, SEO can solve all challenges. So SEO can solve a brand problem. It can solve a PR problem from a conversion standpoint. It could either solve like high intent or it could be low intent. SEO is because it is potentially cheaper than paid marketing, then it really is a multi-use Swiss Army knife. Unlike paid marketing, you don't have an opportunity to experiment as much paid marketing. With SEO, you can write a low quality post and just see whether it attracts any visitors and attracts anything, and update it. Whereas paid marketing, if it doesn't work out, you've lost your money.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think this has been like a great conversation, Eli, and I just want to end this on like a very higher note. So what are some of the best practices, or what are some of the learnings that that you got from SEO, working in SEO since 2004? So that's like 16 years. So you have actually seen the industry, like grow altogether. So what are your learnings and your best practices that you can give for, SaaS companies?
The number one thing I would say is that Google is an AI company. So ultimately, Google has a lot of really interesting products outside of search. They have self-driving cars that use AI. They have healthcare under Verily that uses AI. So they're an AI company.
Mm-hmm.
Google's ultimate goal is to have a fake, or not a fake, a imitation user experience on search. So what they want, and the ultimate goal of search, is to, as if a human user would have curated search just for each person. So you do a search and you find the exact result. Now,
Right.
I'm not a prophet. How do I know that this is their end result? Because they're producing devices that only work with one result. When you have a voice device, or you have a visual device, or you do a visual, or you do a voice search on your phone, it can't answer your question and say, here's 10 possible responses. It wants to give you that one possible response. So that's where Google wants to go. So all the tactics that people try to employ around SEO, or I think eventually will be useless, because if you can't trick a person, if you could trick a person, great. But if you can't trick a person, eventually you will not be able to trick Google. So I think that's the most important thing for people to understand, is like, as you're doing SEO, think of Google as eventually becoming human. You may find a loophole now, but that loophole probably won't last long into the future.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is really, really understand your attribution, and understand like what value organic is contributing to your bottom line or top line revenue and bottom line profits. So that way you can invest appropriately, and it's probably a far better contribution than you expect it to be. So then invest even more. And then the third thing is that think of SEO on a granular level. So too often people think of SEO as like, I've been punished by Google. Again, I avoid that at all costs. I don't usually work with people that get punished by Google because they're creating high quality content. But they say, I've been punished by Google, I lost 20% of traffic. It doesn't really work like that. What happens is the algorithm changes, and one URL may lose 50% of traffic and another URL gains 30% of traffic. So net, maybe you lost 20% of traffic. So it's really valuable to like look at URLs and keywords on a granular level to understand what's working and what's not working. And even
Totally.
when that happens, it's important to understand on a granular level, did any of change in traffic affect your sales? So there was a company I was working with recently. Again, most of the time I don't have any algorithm up. This company supposedly got hit by an algorithm update. They lost a lot of traffic. They lost no revenue because the pages they lost were not valuable. They weren't converting anybody. So
Right.
that would be my final tip.
Right. So not necessarily the pages that are getting you the traffic are the pages directly attributed to revenue as well. So this is a good
Correct.
learning, I think. Yeah. So I have so this is a great discussion, Eli, and I just have lightning round. So I have like 3 questions, which are not SEO, since we discussed a lot on SEO. So what do you know about your work now that you wish you would have known when you first started?
I sort of wish I would have started consulting earlier, because I've been having so much fun.
Yeah, I think it is just like you get to work on dynamic things, right? It's not just one product, it's like 10 products that you're working on. And you never know, even if there are 2 products in different industries and different domains, you can apply one's logic to the other, and it just works sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So what did your biggest professional failure teach you?
So my biggest failure was probably about 10 years ago. I was working at a company and we were affected by actually I have two things to share, but we were affected by a Google algo update, the Panda update, and
Uh-huh.
we lost 60% of our traffic in a single day. It was terrible. We thought the company would go under, and getting us out of that taught me everything about technical SEO. I had not valued technical SEO as much before. I didn't have that much SEO experience, and I learned so much about sculpting, pages and providing high quality and understanding links and understanding which are bad links and which are good links. And we recovered from that. We lost 60% of our traffic, and before I left, we had increased by 20% of traffic, and it was only a year or so later. So that was great. My other failure, it's an interesting failure to share, but I went to Singapore to lead APAC marketing for SurveyMonkey, because I believed that I needed international experience, and as a sort of a big move. And what
Yeah.
I ultimately learned was that experience did not add that much to my career. It was a lot of fun, but it's a big learning for me that at least the American economy does not necessarily care as much about international experiences as people might hope they would.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the number one thing that has helped you shorten your learning curve?
Experimentation and an eye for learning. So I like to run a lot of experiments until when things happen to try to understand why it happened, especially as I run SEO experiments. And by having this eye for what is working and what is not working, I'm able to actually gather that learning and never make the same mistake again. And I find that when people don't do that, they do make the same again because they don't realize there was an insight for them to learn. So I use, again, focusing for SEO as a product, when I do an experiment, I create a product spec on my hypothesis and all that. So I have my links right there. And then rather than like, well, let me just throw something at the wall and see if it works. And then if it works, I don't really know why or what I was testing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been an interesting and this has been a very insightful conversation, Eli. I mean, thanks a lot for doing this. And I believe that when we talked before, you were talking about launching your own book on product led SEO. So can you give us more on info on that before we part off?
My approach to SEO, the product led SEO approach. But more than that, it's a book on everything I've learned, it being working in-house and leading a team. So everything around hiring for anybody that's a little bit, more junior in their career. How do you sell to your boss and get your boss to invest in you? How do you make a budget ask? And most importantly, I wrote this book because I find that many leaders don't understand SEO that much. So I've written the book to them, like to this, the CMO, to the VP of marketing. This is not tactics. I don't want to weigh in on tactics on how to do keyword research.
Right.
For me, it's more higher level. Like this is how you should understand what keywords are.
Yeah.
This is how you should understand that you should not track rankings. This is how you build attribution. So that's the crux of my book. I do hope it comes out soon. It is, close to finished. Anybody that wants the book, do follow me on my website and sign up for my newsletter, and you'll be certain to find out when it comes out.
And if anyone that wants to, get in their strategic people's buy-in and get your seat at, the main marketing table, if you're into SEO, then definitely follow Eli on his newsletter and his website, which I'm going to include it in the description below. So yeah, thanks a lot, Eli.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Sunil.